Welcome to Friday Forum, April 15, 2022. And we'll jump right into it. This week, we've had a top-level focus on organizational priorities. There's several layers to this, but essentially, and this is upcoming in the company strategy memo that Sam put on Threads a few days ago, and we'll continue to iterate on with some projects. But essentially, we're hitting a phase shift in our organizational size and complexity at nearing 50 full-time people. And so that comes with different organizational decision-making requirements, deconvolution of various degrees of overlap. And so we're starting to really focus on this stuff with process, with projects, with resources like the DRI matrix, which helps us understand whose decision-making is covers which regions of the business or projects, and then the ongoing focus on product development process, which Scott is leading. So just want to put that out there, as this week was definitely this week and a few weeks prior was definitely an opportunity for us to open our eyes and see that these things are starting to surface and then be able to double down on them. Sam will have a little bit more on this in just a few minutes. We initiated a plan, which Sissy is leading, for engaging with our Series A crowdfund investors. So this will be an opportunity to connect with them, celebrate our upcoming Series A announcement, which has not gone live yet. That will be in just a few days, and talk about what this raise means for the business and for the future. So this is gonna be really exciting. Looking forward to doing so. We've got a white glove onboarding experiment. So as the continuation of our experimentation culture, we're trying some things on the front end of the experience around onboarding. And the initial phase of this is gonna be 10 new members, see if synchronous onboarding, more of a white glove experience, can help to mitigate some of the challenges with getting set up, getting moving with the program. Some people kind of seem to hit a hurdle on the way from receiving the kit to getting data streaming into the Levels app. So this will be an experiment. Looking forward to that. Some good numbers this week. So NPS is back up to 62. Happiness is super high at 95, which is always impressive, but never surprising at this point. And we're seeing really positive engagement in the Facebook community. So over the past few weeks, it's kind of started to accelerate. And of course, this is part of the community effort. We'll be building these social gathering places for our members, current, former, and potentially future, to engage with each other and learn from each other. Product resources remain super focused on liftoff. This shouldn't be a surprise. We'll have more on this in the product update. We also have the rollout approach definition for new app features. So this is going to allow people to, you can kind of see in the middle of the screen a little video of how this will appear for existing members. So this will allow people to kind of take the wheel when it comes to new changes being levied on them, rather than their whole dashboard kind of changing overnight and something that was familiar suddenly being gone. We can instead let them opt into it, and it can feel more like a feature than a bug. So you see something new and you actually get the opportunity to experience it firsthand, or first. And that's kind of a different framing of the experience. So that will be the approach we use likely for several features that are upcoming. And we're also shifting focus to validating learnings rather than launches explicitly. So we want to not just push out features, but also validate the lessons that we hope to learn from those new features. We're starting this with the daily guide validation V1 this coming week. Membership messaging. So we've been, we transitioned to the membership model, and that's quite a different experience for people who are just engaging with Levels for the first time, or even people who have been with us as subscribers for a long time. And so we really need to nail the messaging to help express what exactly we mean by membership, what the value proposition is, both now and looking to the future. We had an opportunity to really validate this with the email outreach campaign over the past few weeks. So that messaging that we developed in that campaign seems to really be resonating with people. We had good validation, good response, good feedback. So we'll be formalizing this across member-facing surfaces going forward. And obviously this will be a living project, but it's good to know that we have kind of directional feedback from our members that is working. And then we also have an updated taxonomy of member interests. And this was an effort to kind of consolidate the inbound member interest responses we get and understand why people are coming to us, why people want to use Levels. And it looks like about 70% of this is focused around general healthiness, weight management, avoiding disease, slowing or being resilient to aging. So not a ton of surprise there, but it is good to be able to realize just how large the distribution or really the segment of our user group, member group is that are interested in these core fundamentals. Other awesome stuff. So we hit 100 episodes for the year on Whole New Level. This is really, really amazing to see. You know, I remember when this launched, episode 1 seemed like such a colossal undertaking, and now it's just cruising. Amazing work for the team. We featured in the Zoe Report and Slate this week. We had Lauren record with Blueprint. We had Taylor record with Complete Human Podcast and the Fitheads Podcast with Ali Spagnola. We had a new video live with Dr. Hyman. Several videos went live with Austin McGuffey, including one with Ben Bickman discussing insulin resistance. And then a really cool piece or video that went live with Dr. Rob, which you know, is kind of a montage or compendia of all of the public you know, conversations he's had about sugar, and this was a kind of a new spin on it, which was awesome. And then we launched a video about how the world is changing healthcare and prescription access with True Pills, Varun and Chris Jones. So that was a really good conversation. I highly recommend. Our website relaunch, or refresh rather, is launching in a couple days here, which is gonna be great. We're gonna incorporate some of the new brand guidelines into that visible experience. And then the Series A patch project was just a huge success. I mean, I've continued to have tons of people reaching out with just real excitement, like genuine happiness to get this little sort of physical badge, or you know, memoranda of the opportunity to participate in what we're building. So I think that was a big win, and I really appreciate Jesse and Lori for driving that. Then we recorded on a Whole New Level with Dr. David Perlmutter about drop acid with Casey, and Gabe Mendoza as well, which is always awesome. And then Casey was on the School of Greatness, which has 2 million subscribers. This is a live recording. Really, really amazing to be on that show. Then we had Manu Ginobili, a former NBA player and legendary at that, and the legendary DJ Steve Aoki come into our orbit. And finally, a new experiment called Eat or Pass, which is Casey kind of giving hot takes on various foods and various lifestyle activities. So this is part of the like 10x video content effort, which is going quite well. I think that's the major stuff. We'll jump up to welcome Lisa. Lisa is a member of the Levels community. She's a broker and realtor, and someone who is quite excited about the mission. She is a crowdfund investor as well in the Level Series A. And Lisa, I would love to just yield the floor, and I'd love to hear a few words from you on your experience with Levels, what you hope for in the future of Levels specifically, but healthcare generally, and how we might be able to improve, and or your personal experience thus far.
Great, thank you. I am a consultant. I do supply chain consulting on new product innovation. I live in Minneapolis, but Lonsdale is not far away. But yeah, so I'm honored and humbled to be here. I'm a little nervous because this is a pretty exciting group to be in front of. But I'm here to help. I'm here to help you figure out whatever it is that you're looking for, and what I love to do is help people. So I have been an intermittent continuous glucose monitor user. I really started because I have a good friend of mine who is type 1 diabetic, and I had no way to be kind of have empathy with them. And so I wanted to do that because I just knew that there was so much more to this world. And I also did not want to get sucked into that world. So why I do this myself now is because I want to live. 123 is my favorite number. So that is the number I'm going for, 123. I want to age well. I want to age in a healthy fashion. I want to avoid, all the bad stuff of aging, right? So mentally, physically, and emotionally as well. Having something that is tangible to me is really robust in my insight on how I process my health. Going to the doctor once a year or whenever to get tests and results doesn't do it for me, right? I want immediate feedback. I want to know what I did right. I want to know what I did wrong, and I want to fix it. I recently found the Glucose Goddess, and I have been trying her hacks, and it is fantastic. I'm like, okay, So I do a meal, I take my apple cider vinegar, I do it in the right order. I have been in the 90s all week doing that. I take the same meal, I eat my carbs first, and it's just like off the charts. And like, it's amazing how smart you can be with just a little of the immediate feedback. What else you guys have for questions? What else would you like me to talk?
That's what we love to hear, and generally this is about getting to know our members and their journey and what they're interested in. I love hearing things like your goal is 123, that's the sort of driving consideration that I think is only now becoming truly realistic as we get to the point where people can set a goal decades in advance and use technology to track towards it. And so I love that. It feels it feels lofty but achievable. So
well, I have longevity in my family. My grandmother is 97 and walks a mile a day every morning. And my parents are, in their 70s, Dad just turned 80, and I'm starting to see them change. And I would love to show them this technology. I am not sure they are ready for the amount of energy and effort it is. They both have iPhones, but I'm not sure they're going to scan it, and I'm not sure they're going to get it. So it's still probably on the too complex of a side for them. But I'm watching them and I'm like, anything I can do, I know I need to do it now. I'm 54. I'm like, I just have to start.
That's really amazing feedback as well. The current mandate for what we're building is showing people how food affects their health. And obviously technical complexity and operational complexity of scanning and things like this, they sort of intervene in that experience. So we'd love to hear just in maybe a few thoughts how we might be able to overcome that hurdle to get your parents to be able to interact with our product. Do you have any low-hanging fruit we could improve?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing would be to get rid of the scanning, just have it automatically hit your phone, because my parents use their phone, they carry them with them. And then maybe have some way to alert you when, how you can set up alerts. They need that to be set. They can't set that up themselves. They need to have opt into notifications. They can do that, and I can help them with that. But they're not going to scan. They're not going to they might take pictures of their food, but they're probably not going to log it like I do, what it is. And then right now, 8 hours, you have to get up the first minute you get up, you have to scan or you miss half your night. And so how it can just eliminate that part would be the first thing. And then I think your newer, the newest things where it's telling you about your yesterday and how you did and what you can do, that needs a little more, right? A few more iterations, but that concept of, oh, your meal at whatever didn't do good for you. My parents are not bloggers or vloggers, or they don't watch podcasts or listen to podcasts or watch YouTube. They don't do any of that. So how can you make those nuggets even more condensed? I love going in, I'll get sucked into, the videos or the articles that you have attached. I don't think they will. I also don't think they need to do it for a year, right? $199 for a year, to me, that's well worth it. I don't think that's worth it, for them. I think they would be so.
All super great insights. Yeah, it's there's some exciting stuff coming down the pike, I can say, which addresses several of these, potentially with an option in the near future for continuous data streaming. And so lots of exciting stuff that I think could unlock, validating many of these projects we've been working on in the background, which I think are really driving towards accessibility. So Lisa, it's priceless information and direct feedback from a real world use case. I really appreciate you setting some time aside on a Friday. And generally, we would love to have you stick around for the rest of the call. We have about 90 minutes of action-packed meeting ahead, but if you need to jump, thank you again. The whole team really appreciates hearing directly from you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to stick around.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Jumping right ahead into welcoming Caitlin. Caitlin lives in New York City, most recently a freelance science writer and editor focused on neurotechnology, wearables, bioethics. It sounds impossible, but yes, that is the exact overlap of her background and expertise. And she is now here to help us as associate editor. And I would love to welcome Caitlin and just kind of yield the floor. Would love to hear some words from you.
Hi. First of all, just as an aside from what Lisa is saying, I feel like everybody who gets introduced to this space or uses CGM, their first thought is, how do I get my parents to do this? So I am just thinking about that, like what would that mean from a content perspective? What can we do? I know there's always a delicate balance of wanting to spread the gospel, but also not being that guy who is too pushy. But I do think there are things we can do. So it's just to say I echo that sentiment and would also like to convert my parents who live in Connecticut. There's my bridge to my about me. So yeah, I am in New York from Connecticut, not very geographically diverse person. But yeah, specifically, I live on the Upper West Side, which I think is the best neighborhood in New York once you've decided that you're not cool. Like it's not a cool place. It's just like a nice place to live. And that picture on the bottom is the reservoir in Central Park, which is pretty close to where I am. As Josh said, I've been a writer and science communicator in various forms for my whole career, and then got interested in the wearable space from originally an academic perspective, and then after my PhD, decided to sort of jump into this space as a writer and editor, and that's what I was doing before this. That's how I found Levels. I'm mostly coming from the neurotech space, though not exclusively, but I'm just really excited to learn about metabolic science and to work with the team. My, I guess, fun fact, which you'll see at the bottom, is that I'm currently 8 months pregnant. So everything in my body hurts, but my mind is alive and thriving. And I'm also very hungry, so I'll probably switch to audio after this so I can eat something while I enjoy the rest of this forum. And that's me.
Amazing. No shame in eating right on the live forum, by the way. That's something we allow here. We're a company that embraces food. Congrats and welcome to the team. Everyone, please make yourselves available as usual as Caitlin onboards and get started with the team. I know we had a cafe this past week, and hope everyone got to, I unfortunately wasn't able to join, but hope everyone was able to connect a little bit. And yeah, very, very excited for the future and all that you're going to bring to the team, Caitlin. Jumping right into welcoming Sonia. I'm actually going to have Casey do the intro because Casey is going to be working hand in hand with Sonia every step of the way, and would love to have that interaction.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Sonia. There was also a cafe this week for Sonia, so a lot of you got to meet her. She is our first chief of staff here at Levels, so we're going to be working closely together to scale a bunch of different projects. But I will turn it over to you, Sonia, to introduce yourself, and we're so excited to have you on the team.
Awesome. Thanks, Casey, and hi, everyone. I have been stalking, or I should say watching, these Friday forums for a long time. So it feels really incredible to be here. I'm super motivated by the onboarding and this entire team. Thanks to Casey and Ms. and everyone that has done something with onboarding. Jackie and Tom probably feel like you've given me really small tips, but the feedback has been hugely appreciative. It helps me really embrace the culture and the way of working here at Levels. So I have been passionate about helping people realize their potential and live kind of happy, healthy, and full lives for a long time. And I've been doing that in different ways as a consultant, trying to help people find their potential in organizations, as a yoga and spin and fitness instructor, And then more recently in business school, consulting specifically for health and wellness companies. So I worked with Joe over at Fit Insider, which is how I originally heard about Levels, and tried the product as a beta user, absolutely loved it, and then have been following Casey and this company ever since. So super excited and grateful to be here. At Levels, as Casey mentioned, I'm specifically going to be working with her to help scale her impact and time and own a number of projects, working with advisors and digital marketing and more. So really excited to jump on in. And I have one sort of specific ask or call out for this team here is, as the first chief of staff at Levels, many of you probably know every chief of staff role is different. And so as part of the onboarding process, I'm doing short 30-minute interviews with other chief of staffs at tech startups to inform kind of how I shape and execute my role here, and then eventually create potentially some content on what it means to be a chief of staff at a startup. So if you have someone in your network that is a rock star chief of staff at a high growth tech startup and be willing to connect us, please let me know. And thanks also to Sam for doing this as well. So really excited and looking forward to getting to know all of you better. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you, Sonia. Super excited to have you on the team. Yeah, looking forward to it. Can't wait to learn from the whole chief of staff experience and how we build this role into the company. I'm convinced that, as someone said yesterday on a call I had with them, Levels is now known as doing everything unorthodox. So I'm sure that you're going to learn a lot and fill the negative space and how everyone else is doing the role. But super stoked to have you. And again, please make yourselves available to Sonia and Caitlin as they get fired up. And this is going to be, it's just awesome to have the team continuing to grow with such great people. Okay, quick culture aside, I want to welcome or give Justin a very happy 1 year. I cannot believe it's been a year since Justin started with us. That's just incredible how fast time is flying. But he's brought just an amazing spectrum of capabilities. His product intuition is phenomenal, so he's really able to help us on that end of the spectrum and just like cranks out work. And I'm sure the whole Eng team can assert how good it is to have him on the team. Happy 1 year, Justin. Also want to shout out Hao and Andrew. So we've been having some back-end issues, which are actually quite challenging to perceive. Many of us, these are not readily available, in our line of sight. And so just knowing that in the background, there is some really awesome work happening to continue to make a robust operating system that our business can run on. And one of these, one of the outcomes just this past week was Andrew, I'm sure with support from the rest of the team, was able to knock 30% off the load we're applying to one of our critical systems. So yeah, just want to give that shout out. Thanks to all the engineers working on back-end stuff that is not readily visible to the rest of the company. Another great example of culture and closing loops, essentially, Ian this week posted something in Threads, which caught my eye and several other people's eyes. And it was just a simple update that he was blocked on a few things. And he kind of laid out exactly what his blockage was, what other things he could default to, but wanted to make sure that was the priority. And so that's really helpful. It just like surfaces for everyone to see exactly, kind of how to improve, whether it's the existing blockage or to make sure that Ian's priorities are redistributed effectively. So just want to say these sorts of things are really helpful. Doing them out in the open also helps people learn how they can sort of insert process into their own workflow. And then great to see Sissy and Galit in Asheville this week. Sissy is like on a world tour, it seems, and love seeing these meetups happen live. Handing it over to Casey.
Okay, so I just have to shout out Sonia. She has been a total culture, like just embodying so much of our culture in her first week. Actually, all of this was done by day 2. So I had to shout it out. Basically, she wrote a memo by day 2 about a project she wanted to do, complete in Levels format with purpose, background, etc., linked documents. Within the memo, suggested a project that was going to help, again, what she was talking about, shape sort of this understanding of the COS role. But while doing that, thinking about content. So suggesting 3 pieces of content that could come out of this, including an Everyone on Content piece, a YouTube video, and a future Whole New Levels episode. She also, and I'm not sure if this has been done before, it may have been, but outsourced some of her onboarding tasks to Athena including with a Loom video. And that has already now been done. And so this was really cool, which was basically taking all the reading and the memos from her onboarding documents and having Athena put them into a document so she could make sure to kind of track all of them. And then on the far left here, just wanted to shout out, she had basically looped in a bunch of people to get feedback on the memo she wrote and the proposed project, and included some email copy for people to reach out to the network, basically proactively just taking off that lift of Sam in terms of reaching out for the network to make intros to other chiefs of staff. So all of that just completely blew me away. And I'm just so impressed at really adopting these things. And really, I think also a testament to Sonia's been following our Friday forums and a lot of this stuff for a long time. And so really actually understanding culture before even joining the company. Then I think it's just an awesome testament to our culture of transparency and how that can actually feed into making this onboarding even quicker. So awesome job, Sonia. Really impressive.
Love to see it. Great work, Sonia. Okay, the main thing, level shows you how food affects your health. This is the priority. Everyone should be working towards it in some capacity. One of the key milestones along the path to being able to do this at scale is liftoff. So if your priorities are on liftoff, they're properly allocated, and that is a step in this direction. If you don't feel you're working on this, please raise that, and we'll make sure that the allocation is correct. Alrighty, Sam.
This is me here. This is just a quick touching on the priorities that Josh mentioned. I sent over a message on Threads, but I just wanted to re-emphasize that we have a pretty significant initiative over the next month or so that Maz, Ms., Lauren, JM, Ben, lots of people are going to be involved in this. Many of you were at the company when we tried implementing OKRs the first time around, and the conclusion was that we were just too early and too small. All of the information that came out of that exercise was just stuff that everyone already knew, and so it didn't add any new clarity or value. But we are a totally different company now, and we will be again in 6 to 12 months. So we have to just continually revisit our processes and realign our priorities. So we're taking on a new push to clarify responsibilities within the organization and focus a lot more on what the top priorities are, including building in metrics and layers of abstraction to manage the complexity of the organization. So expect that you'll get some outreach from Maz and from lots of other people on the team as we start to figure this out. So this is a very high priority thing. It's really important to make sure that we all understand what the priorities are and that we're working towards them. Otherwise, we're working on things that there's nothing more frustrating than spending time working on something that is not actually that important. So we want to make sure that we take this time to really focus on what's important and keep building.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Sam. Thanks everyone contributing to that effort. Quick JM North Star update.
Good morning, everyone. The North Star metric was roughly flat week over week at 1,881 daily food loggers. We're still sort of at that all-time high spot, which is great. On subscriptions, we had a decent week last week with 169 new subscribers. We lost 91 for a total of 78 net new CGM subscribers. And that's all for the metrics.
Thank you, JM. Let's try and skip ahead without. There we go. Okay, I think David's taking this one.
Yeah, Scott's out on Think Week, so no major changes here. We have the majority of our engineering resources are allocated towards liftoff, and the rest of them are on the Now project to focus on education and insights. Next slide. And the split of this is largely the entire web team is working on liftoff, and the entire mobile team is focused on Now. And not anticipating any major changes here. Next slide. We've had a couple of app releases this week. So we had one a few days ago and then another one yesterday, keeping up the high cadence. We were iterating on some bug fixes, so hence the 2 releases this week, but keeping a steady cadence on this. Next slide. And before we get into the project updates, just a quick shout out that thank you for everyone who has passed on references for our senior product manager opening. Scott's going to begin doing some manual outreach to those candidates next week. And if you do come across anyone else or have any more ideas, please keep the recommendations coming. And before we start, can we do a refresh, Josh? And then I'll pass it off to whoever's next. Perfect.
Looks like Maz up first.
Hi everyone, a few updates for you today. Quick update on the email that we sent that we talked about a few forums ago. The results are in, and we got really great feedback from our members around the new explanation of membership. And the questions that we got in support and in Slido were actually pretty straightforward and logical. So I think net was a successful explanation of membership. Another thing that we did, trying to understand our members better, is really thinking about what are the end goals that members join to accomplish. So we, if you remember, we had updated the taxonomy of the reason why members join levels, and we split into these categories. And based on the new data, we see that 70% of our members join levels to achieve these top three goals, which is managing their weight, avoiding disease, and slow aging. And then the remaining 30% on these. The reason this is important is because it really helps us think about who should we be building the product for and what problems to help them solve. So this gives us more data on who our members are today. We also discussed as part of some of the community work that Sissy did, one of the questions that people had was around cancellation and refunds. And so we had a debate internally about that again. Obviously, our cancellation of membership fee today is very generous, which people can cancel anytime for any reason. And after some debate, we decided to keep it the same and really be generous with our cancellation policy and be member centric. And in the event that we see any kind of fraud or abuse, we'll address it individually. But for now, we will continue to have a really generous refund policy and be delivering on our member-centric approach. Another project that we started this week, and you'll see and hear more about this, is as we enter this stage of 50 plus and in our organization, how do we think about organization design and priorities so that we're all pulling in the same direction and be as efficient as possible? And so this project is kicked off this week, and I will provide regular updates and work with many of you to think through the priorities and actions. So you'll hear more about that. On the manufacturer front, building on the great work that JM and Ben have done around forecasting, we've created a forecasting model for CGMs. And the purpose of this is to really help us, as the assumptions of our business changes with the data that we have, forecast CGM numbers for our manufacturers so we can get the supply that we need on time and in the quantities that we need. If you're interested, you can check that out. In addition to that, we've been continuing discussions with both manufacturers. The discussions are going really well. The agreements are in good shape, and we should have an update here for you soon. That's it for this week. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Maz.
All right, this is the now update. I wanted to do a little bit of a different update on this one and really just provide some background on how we're approaching the now project. And the key here is that, as Josh mentioned in the beginning, we're focusing on validated learnings. Really, we're trying to optimize velocity as measured by the number of validated learnings. So we want to, with the now project, we want to help people understand what to do at every moment of their journey, help them through comprehension and purpose. But in order to do that, we have to have a set of hypotheses and then quickly go out, test that with our membership, learn the good and the bad, and then iterate, close the loop with the member, et cetera. So there's a bunch of things we have been doing, but this is sort of the overall arc, and this is how we want to be approaching product development at levels in general. Next slide, Josh. So I just wanted to give you a brief sort of our launch plan, but you can think of it as the validated learnings plan. and give you a survey of where we're at with who actually has seen the Now page from our membership, who is going to see it soon, and what the timeline is for that. So we're currently driving prioritization based on member feedback using the member interviews that Mike and I are conducting. And we currently have about 400 people who are enabled for Now. This is not our entire membership, but we want to increase the amount of feedback we're getting because we're getting about 10 calls per week. We want to increase that substantially. So we want to roll out Now to closer to 100% of new members. The feedback we've had so far has been positive. There have been some tweaks that we want to do, but it's at a point where I'm comfortable rolling this out to 100% of existing members. And then we have a separate channel for our existing members who already have seen the old experience, and we're providing them an opt-in capability that I previewed last week. So the goal here is to increase the number of members on Now so we can increase the feedback and increase the rate of our validated learning. And then, yeah, roughly we want to time this to launch, to have 100% of existing members, or sorry, of new members, plus an opt-in for new members to align with that liftoff timeline that JM mentioned previously. Next slide. Just a brief, yep. So a quick case study. The main thing that we started out with on Now is this radically simplified core interaction model. So I want to show you how we went through a few iterations, what we learned, and how we teed up the next iterations based on the feedback that we learned from members. Next slide. So the very first thing we considered with Now was that a radically simplified single focused action will increase awareness of what the member should do next. And that's how, if you've been testing out the app, we have the single full card views. And what we learned from that was that largely members are seeing and comprehending that the insights we deliver they're seeing them and they're comprehending them, which is great. But we uncovered a whole bunch of other friction points as denoted in the screenshot with the little yellow warning signs. And so based on those things that came up in member feedback driven by Mike, we queued up additional iterations for Justin to work on based on new hypotheses on what would fix those friction points that came up. So next slide. Just a quick explanation here is that one of the friction points that came up in that initial iteration was that members had difficulty swiping between cards. They didn't really know where cards went after they were dismissed. And so one of the hypotheses was that if we add a clear home for where those cards go, members will, that confusion will go down. So we introduced this recent activity widget highlighted in that first screenshot. And then we also hypothesized that if we made it easier to get rid of cards, they would have a better clear understanding of where they go. And so Justin this week has been working on, he actually released the ability to swipe to dismiss cards, an easier way to do that. So on the one hand, we have some feedback on that activity home, and that has been partially validated, which we'll get to on the next screen, but we're awaiting validation for the swipe to dismiss, which is a new feature for this week. Next slide. So a quick third iteration was, after we released that activity widget, which was a clear home for where your dismissed cards go, we got feedback that some members, the ones who knew how to access it, knew what it was and it was working well for them, but a bunch of other members didn't know that they had more cards. And so they didn't really get a chance to test this new home widget because they had too many cards to get through and they just never got to the bottom of the stack. And so the next hypothesis we had based on that was that, actually, I think it's, okay, yeah, you're on the slide. So how might we increase awareness that there are more cards and increase the engagement across that set of cards? And so this is currently in design. Alan and I are talking through this. Some ideas are replacing the little pagination widget at the bottom that is very small and hard to know what the difference is between each card, with a much more visual, slightly larger pagination widget that is more timeline based. And we might see if that will increase the awareness of traversing through the different options you have with Now. Yeah, so just to wrap this up, we're trying to take it one step at a time, get member feedback, and then based on that feedback, remove the friction points through a new hypothesis, launch that quickly, and then using the same engineer who's been on the project, with in this case, Justin, get those learnings, decide if we want to move on or not. And this is where we currently are with the core interaction part of this. The next slide. We have another project that will be is launching this week to members who are enabled for Now and is currently awaiting validation. The hypothesis with the daily guide was that the common questions that members have in their first week would be reduced by providing a more structured guide throughout their first week. Steph's been working on this. It looks really cool. If you can, give it a shot internally and try it out. Steph is not moving on to another project right now because we're waiting for those validations to come in. So we really want to focus on a single project at a time for any given developer currently. And get that cadence high with the member feedback. And then this will give us the flexibility that as we have the feedback coming in, we can decide to double down on what's working, fix the things that aren't, or say this didn't work, can it, and go on to the next one. Next slide. There's a bunch of other, a handful of other distinct projects that are in flight here that we previewed last week, but briefly, John has been working on the metabolic report, where we hypothesize that a takeaway artifact is going to increase logging and a sense of purpose in week 1. If we can give them this kind of gift, this tangible teaser that they're going to get out of week 1, that will see that engagement increase. Another one is Murillo's working on that interactive glucose game where you can drop food onto the graph, see how it responds before you ever see your own data. And we think that this play is going to increase the comprehension of how people relate to their activities in glucose. Of course, one of the early feedbacks we had was that people love the full screen zone scorecards, but they felt confused about the context and didn't wish it were connected to the food and the glucose graph. So Steven's been jumping in to add the glucose line plus your meal log there, right there on the zone scorecard. And then finally, with the in-app onboarding, which is very close to launch, we think that more members will successfully apply their sensors with in-app guided onboarding. So one of the meta points here I just wanted to briefly touch on is that we have to decide what sort of metrics to use in any project that will help us determine whether this is a success or not. Some of these things, like you'll see increased logging or increase the number of people who are applying their sensors, we can measure that quantitatively. Other things, we may have to use qualitative judgment through our member feedback, such as the interactive glucose education. Do we get a sense in feedback that people have a better understanding of that glucose line and how their metabolism relates to their activities? It's an open question. And if you go to the next slide, where I wanted to leave you with was, please share your feedback. We really want to lean into this validated learning model. And if you can think of ways that we can better capture validated learnings from any stage of this, whether it's the hypotheses, metrics, and analysis, iterating, closing the loop with members, like how do we actually tell members after we launch something that we did it based on their feedback and make them feel happy about that? Please share feedback with me, share feedback with Scott. Maybe do that publicly in the Now forum, or just drop your thoughts and we can collectively iterate on this. It's going to be a journey, but I think if we lean into this and maximize our learnings, we're going to be really satisfied with the results and bringing our members along the way for that journey. That's it.
Really good call to action there, David. And I think one of the subtexts of that call to action is that everyone use the product, use the new features consistently, especially as we're shipping these. We got to eat our own dog food and see how it tastes. So that's the best way to come up with opportunities for these new features as they come out. All right, thanks, team.
Just a quick comment there. So David, I have a sensor right next to me. Should I put it on now and sign up as a new account? Or is this coming out soon that I should jump on it?
So with your old account, you can jump in and try it out. That would work. If you want to try it from a brand new user, then let's coordinate online, because we need to, after you create that account, we have to enable that for now. So just ping me after you create it and before you start, and I'll get that set up. The next step, actually, which I didn't give the demo for, but very soon, probably early next week, we'll be turning on Now by default for everyone who creates a new account after a certain date. So say today, they'll all be automatically enabled for now. And then existing members would see that opt-in path. So if you want to do it right now, just ping me after you create it and I'll set it up for you.
Cool. So I can wait till Monday. Is that right?
Yeah, Monday or
Sometime
Tuesday.
next week.
So
Cool.
I'll ping you after this.
Yeah.
What we're
Ping me
trying
when
to
it's
do
ready.
is, the last thing we want to do before rolling it out to everyone is just do an end-to-end test and make sure that it's there's no egregious bugs for us to do that.
Awesome. Quick update from Helena.
Okay, data science update. I haven't done one of these in a while. As many of you know, I took a think week last week to catch up on some documentation and deep work, and I posted about my overall experience on Threads. So if you haven't seen that, please check it out. A few documents that came out of my think week. So the member research project is officially closed out and the write-up is up in Notion. For those who aren't familiar, this was a project where I took a handful of members and with their permission, I followed their data very closely for 2 to 4 weeks During this time, I had weekly check-ins with them where I provided them with personalized insights and got their feedback. And in this document, we synthesize some of the common member feedback themes and roughly outline how we're going to use these learnings to iterate on insights in the app. So huge thank you to all of our members who participated. The next document is the research statistical framework. I've been working with Taylor, Azure, and now Study to align on data needs, data organization, modeling, and potential research pathways. So more to come on that. Stay tuned. I also revamped the data science take home and started a data science onboarding guide. This is a draft, so please give me your feedback on that as well. And now on to sort of the bulk of this update. It was a huge week for the data warehouse. JM added 2 columns to the users table so we can better keep track of metrics related to blood panel and orders. Maxine merged a massive PR related to the demographics project, which shout out to Maxine for just being so patient and for all the back and forth and for iterating, and also for implementing a date masking policy to ensure that we are remaining compliant with our privacy policy, which is something we take very seriously here. Another huge shout out to Galit, who took on fixing the build outage issue in Snowflake. Is a little bit more complicated than we thought, but she has some really good solutions. So we're going to get that underway soon. And then another thing that's in the works is I'm working on resyncing the health metric table so that we have more up-to-date glucose data available in the warehouse. A few process changes with the warehouse as well. So we're going to start posting any migration or like feature requests in the Snowflake enhancement list in Notion. This is just to ensure that all of our requests and to-dos are in one place and not all over threads. Another thing we're going to do is utilize Linear a bit more for any and all scheduled warehouse tasks. This is just to give people a little bit more visibility into what's going on with the warehouse and also make sure that we're being organized. Something else that happened this week, we're going to start posting or being a little bit more actionable about posting threads updates in the data and analytics forum for scheduled or unforeseen warehouse interruptions. We had a couple, we had one unforeseen warehouse interruption this week and then one that was scheduled. And you could see all 3 of these posts were made on the same day, where people were just noticing like, oh, this table's out, oh, this data looks weird. And you know, a lot of the engineers were aware that this was going on, but other people didn't have visibility into that. And so I think whenever we have some sort of scheduled or unforeseen interruption, we'll post about it in the threads so that everyone can kind of plan around that. And then the last thing is we now have a weird things I'm seeing in the data document in Notion to keep track of questions, or if you notice that variables just don't look right or numbers aren't adding up, please document it there. Our database is growing quite rapidly, and so it gets harder the more data you have to monitor and make sure that you're storing data in the right format, that you're storing the right data. So this is kind of like a, if you see something, please document it here, and I'll be checking this regularly. We might iterate on this process. We'll see how it goes. So that's it for data science, and I hope everyone has a great weekend.
Great update. Thank you, Helena. Andrew.
Everyone, engineering progress update. We've had a great week, really productive with features ranging from Now Project to infrastructure to Scraper, new e-commerce stuff. So it's really exciting. The recruiting pipeline stays healthy. We have a number of candidates that we're pretty excited right now. They're in the pipeline. So stay tuned for that.
All right. Sweet. Alan.
Hey everybody. So not tons of design work to show this week. I was out for most of it, but sort of 3 themes have emerged this week to share. So one being closing the loop on some of the Now project work. You know, we're coming into the build out more and more and get it into more users' hands, and we're starting to get feedback, and so we want to start addressing some of the feedback we're hearing. Wayfinding, Brett's done some amazing work to plot out what the app is really what is we need some way to navigate through it and see the entire experience in one page. So he's been working on that, and then I've been doing a lot of writing. Not my core skill, but I'm happy to flex it again. In many years since I worked where my job was to write. So next slide. So yeah, so on closing the loop, so as we've getting more feedback from users on the Now project, we're hearing some pain points emerge around navigation, and so we're looking more deeply into that. There's also just some fundamental stuff that sort of design QA, when you get in people's engineers' hands, we start uncovering what happens in small screens. How do these images work? How do we address accessibility? So there's been a lot of little tiny things stacking up here to make sure that we're good to go. Next slide. Here's one from Brett on the mapping project.
Hello, friends. I was gonna open this with like a video montage of people saying we need a map, which I thought would have been hilarious, like the Star Wars one, and like we need a map, but apparently there's not apps for this, or I don't know about them. If you have recommendations, please send. Anyhow, we needed a map. So here's a map of all of Alan's hard work, or much of it, I should say, as well as a couple things for me. But basically, this is just a bunch of views organized into like a fairly logical flow of what we expect from the day one, from setup, onboarding, through day two. So like getting people into the path of using the app. So this is definitely a work in progress. You can see that we've like roped off, app boot, account setup, purchase flow. Like you'll see questions like this. Is this an existing user? No, go this way. Yes, go this way. So kind of like a little bit of logic map stuff happening in here. There's definitely some floating screens. They're all being dealt with in due time. But this should give you a pretty good sense of the overall app. This is also so you'll see stuff like this, like logging is in here twice, because there's logging first run and then there's logging recurring view, which is just slightly different, but worth noting the differences. So yeah, one giant map of everything. It's not actually that giant. I mean, this is a hefty onboard, I'm not gonna lie. I audit the number of taps it takes to get through places, so we're being very mindful of how much we're asking of people. And if you see a purple bar, that means we're putting in a little celebration moment. So we verify somebody's ID, you're in, little pop celebration. Hey, you're set up and you're connected, another pop celebration. And you'll find these kind of throughout the app. And yeah, that's there'll be a link shared to this. Feel free to comment. There's a long way to go, so be patient, but it's all in one place, and I'm really happy about it. I hope you guys are too.
Yeah, so I'll add there that I think having something like this is so useful, and it's something that I've neglected to do, and I'm really happy that Brett's doing it. Is going to allow us to really focus on increasing the reward to work ratio. The onboarding for levels might be like one of the lengthiest onboarding experiences I've actually probably ever seen. So don't be surprised if we lose people. So we got to find ways to lighten it and also just increase the amount of times we're rewarding people for getting through all that work. Next slide. Oh, so this mapping has actually revealed some really interesting little gaps in the product actually. So how can there's some quick wins, I think, just around comprehension. So even just looking at our language, how do we refer to things? We see users tell us all the time, they don't know what zones are. And maybe one of the problems with zones is that they just don't, the naming isn't all that clear to some people. Maybe we just call it meals. Glucose, sugar. Now, it may not be like completely accurate, but for the most part, it's a nice shorthand. And maybe we don't use it all the time. We're gonna have to obviously review with Casey and all the experts here. But I think there's some nice things that we can do here to just make it just a little bit less scientific feeling and a little more accessible. And in terms of like quick wins, yes, I know. I know, Rob, I knew you'd come and get me for that. no, there's no downsides usually for improving comprehension, but don't worry, I'm not going to do anything crazy. And then Brett had a really great suggestion that we've been thinking about for a long time, we never did, which is like, how do you get more sensors? Right now, people are pinging support. I can't believe the levels is surviving with just us having to require people to go file a ticket to get more sensors. It's incredible. So just adding a button at the bottom of the app in profile potentially could help us have some more sensor purchases. Next slide. And on writing. So yeah, there's a lot of writing happening on the design side right now. So what does design look like? What does the process look like? It's when we're not in Figma, what are we doing? Are we talking to people? Are we doing research? So we're gonna try to articulate this so people have a better understanding of what we're doing. We're not just playing in Figma. We're not just polishing screens and picking pretty colors. This is gonna help the team understand what we're doing and look at how we sort of best fit into the collective work that we all do on the product side. The other one, when do we focus on guidance? Or as Sam initially framed it, when are we done with awareness? Perhaps we'll never be done with awareness, but there is going to be a point where we need to transition into some more guided experiences to help people achieve their goals. When do we think we can do that? And then finally, on better user research. How can we get more value out of the time that we're spending with people? This is something that I've been working on for a little while, and I'm looking forward to sharing that when I get back from my break, which is next week. I think that's it. Let's see, any more slides? Always forget. Oh yeah, and if you want to track our projects, we got a whole list of them. I couldn't even capture them all here. We've got lots going on in design, and you're always welcome to come check us out and check on status on these projects. That's it.
Awesome. Thanks, design team. Thank you, Alan. Jumping into hiring. We had Caitlin and Sonia join us this week, so this slide is looking a little more empty. Jen is teed up to get started on Monday, which is quite exciting. And then this slide is going to be empty temporarily, which brings me to the open roles. Always looking for great engineers, still looking for a visual designer, corporate counsels moving along. We've got a senior product manager role that is recently opened, and we're doing targeted outreach right now. But if you know great people, if you are someone who loves what we're building here, wants to be a part of it, has product expertise, please reach out. Otherwise, just go to levels.link/careers where all this info and more is available. Update from Athena.
Everyone, Athena weekly update right here. So from the week of April 4, we have 11 active EAs, 20 levels team members who delegated, and 167 tasks we were able to accomplish. We are bouncing back a little from the dip that we had right here, but so far we are at a good pace. Now moving forward, for the new delegation for the week, Karen tapped the EAs to migrate contacts from her inbox to Google Sheets. Now this is how she sent her request, and I think what is the best part right here, she also provided her goal on why it is needed to be accomplished. So providing that type of context and background to your EA will help them strategize on how it should be done and ask the right questions on what other details can be added aside from the details that you provided in your Loom recording or your instructions to them. They can also add more bits and pieces of details that can be beneficial for the database that they will be creating for you. So yep, and yeah, so if you are interested to delegate more tasks, please email athena@levelshealth.com, or you can simply send us a voice memo through the Athena delegation app. Now, before anything else, I would also like to welcome one of our new Athena EAs. So welcome to Christine Sahol. Feel free to message her, reach out to her, and she will be available to introduce herself to you. And yep, we're continuing with a lot of client transitions, tasks transitions for her to fully onboard the team. So that's it. Thank you, everybody, and have a great weekend.
Awesome. Thank you, Athena team. Welcome, Christine. Over to Chris.
Thanks, Josh. Quick update on the SLA dashboard. It's been a couple of weeks since I've shown this. Lots of greens, no call outs, just to let you know that I'm still tracking it. So all goodness here. Next slide. As I was pulling my weekly data, I saw a spike in our average session length, which had been holding steady at 5 minutes, like a rock. And on April 5th, it jumped up to 6.5 minutes and then came right back down to 5 minutes. And I was like, I couldn't explain why. And I thought maybe it's because of the new 2.59. We released a bunch of new features and people kind of walked through them for the first time. So I did an analysis where I looked at the last 4 versions of our release and saying, what's the daily average length by day? So as you can see, every time we release a new version of the app, you'll see this spike because there's probably some new screen, some new feature. So people take extra time to kind of absorb what that new thing is. And then it kind of goes back to baseline. But what you can see on April 5th is all 4 versions spiked on the same day, which I believe it might be more of a timing shift in terms of the timestamp of post-hog versus the dates, just because it was so close in time, which is why it spiked on all 4 issues. So next slide, please. As promised, I did kind of the first dive comparing Android versus iOS. So first looking at kind of the percent of our user base, which we've talked about before, but roughly 82% of our users are from iOS. Now compare that to when you look at the US smartphone market is 51. So it's roughly about a 50-50 split in terms of people in the US, what they have. We heavily index on iOS, which is probably likely no surprise to us. I think we can look at our own user base. It's me and Ian are probably the lone Android users on the team. The one that jumped out to me, the next one, the average session length is 6 minutes in Android versus iOS. Now, normally you might say that's actually a good thing. People are more engaged, looking at more pages. But my hypothesis is this is likely due to more lag time in the product, that it's taking longer for them to do the same tasks like logging, seeing screens. So it's much more of a likely a performance issue that we're seeing that increase in the average session length for Android. Going down, you can kind of see in general, iOS has better retention, more food logs, a huge, almost 2x in the conversion rate for nutritionalist. This likely gets into why people love iOS. They spend more money, they're more fluent, they have more cash versus Androids in general. So no surprise on that versus what we normally see. The only area that Android won out is on the kind of average food logs of 16.9 versus 16.1. Now, there was some issues that we've had with double food logging, which has been fixed, but not everyone's up on that version. So this could be a little bit of which versions are people on, and are they experiencing double, triple, quadruple logging of food? So take this one with a grain of salt. And then kind of lastly, I'm just calling out a couple of metrics that we actually don't have the ability to do this today: NPS, contact rates, and conversion. So we'll do more of this, but this is kind of the first cut of comparing Android versus iOS. Next slide. And lastly, from the voice of the member, this one is a theme I was on as I'm a lot of times looking at the Facebook group. A member posted that she was drinking Athletic Greens, which we all love, or at least I know I do. I'm drinking mine today. And she said it caused a spike for her and was asking for, do other people have the same issue? So it's interesting to me that in 12 hours, there was 32 comments on this post. And from things talking about biotin, try pairing it with protein, drink it really cold and drink it slow, drink it post-workout, drink it pre-workout, drink it with element. So it was really positive just to see how the community was rallying around this one question around someone spiking with a product like Athletic Greens, and everything that they're doing or have seen or recommended. And so it was just powerful to see the community is very helpful. And the more that I know exactly why Sissy's here to double down on this, it's just something that we need to make sure that we're tapping into, because it's just great to see the community helping each other. And that's the update from member experience.
Great update. Thank you, Chris. Thanks, member experience team. Finance from Riley.
Awesome. Taking the finance over from Ben. So just borrowing from JM's flight path dashboard here, just a little visualization of our weekly and monthly cash receipts and how those kind of translate through to our burn numbers. So you can see from more in the monthly than the weekly, how we started bringing on a lot of new members in January and February and grew our cash receipts through that, and which caused us to generate a lot of cash, but also put some strain on our business and systems. And so kind of deliberate pullback in how quickly we are focused on onboarding new members has brought our kind of cash receipts rate back. So that translates to burn in a couple ways, or increases our burn and reduces our runway, because we're bringing in less cash, and we're bringing in less cash from memberships, which are basically pure margin as opposed to glucose monitors, which are very low margin and kind of a pass through to our customers. So these graphs kind of look like the business is shrinking because we're bringing in less cash, but that's not necessarily the case. We're retaining our new members, and you can kind of see from the CGM graphs that our CGM sales are relatively steady, whereas the declines are coming from new members. So next slide. That's just kind of a note on how that translates to burn. The other thing that's impacting burn increasing is just we continue to grow the team and hire and invest in people. So these things are kind of expected, and the increase to burn, or the burn rate, is going to be around 1.1 to 1.3 over the next few months prior to liftoff. Now, another comment, there's been some different metrics and different commentary around what we call revenue. So just a note on accounting stuff, we're kind of presenting cash receipts and what we collect from customers in this visualization. Revenue for accounting purposes is kind of nuanced and it might differ. So for example, memberships, we collect cash from customers up front, but we give them a year worth of access. So for accounting purposes, we actually recognize that revenue over the year instead of right away, which can lead to some differences. So what this all means, I guess, is you're going to hear a lot more about cash receipts because it's a lot more indicative about what's going on with our business. But you might also come across some accounting revenue stuff and the numbers might be different, and that is why. All right, that's the end of mine.
Thanks, Riley. Inaugural Friday Forum update. So just to put a point on that, the core goal, get to lift off so that we can produce a scalable solution, so that we don't have to be limited by our backend infrastructure and can get back to moving in the direction of targeted intentional growth. Thanks, Riley. And Tony's taking growth update.
Thanks, Josh. So 2 weeks ago, I talked about the 10xing digital content update based on the memo that Ben shared with everyone. For some context about this memo, so the whole goal with this is that we're pushing on, the whole memo is about quality, quantity, and type. So those are the three different types of levers that we could push on, but we're going to focus on type. So out of the types of content, we have 9 types of content that we're working on this month. These are 3 of the types. So first one, Ask Me Anything with Dr. Casey Means. This was definitely a lot of fun. So thank you, Matt, for providing this. Matt provided us with 50 questions from our members, and Casey and I just did a whole lightning round, basically, of her just answering as many of the questions as possible in 30 minutes. So you'll definitely see that video within the next week. You've probably seen a lot of these types of videos online as well, Ask Me Anything or AMAs with other thought leaders. There's also the Eat or Pass video with Casey and Ben. They go through different types of food and whether they're eat or pass. So you'll also be seeing that within the next week. And then there's also a blog, TLDR, with Mike and Ben, talking about the dietary guidelines and what's wrong with it. It was definitely very interesting, and we're also going to put it out in podcast form because it was very informative. So these are the 3 types of content, and the whole goal with this is really just to see the kind of metrics we get from these types of content and see which ones perform the best, and then double down on those types of content based on which ones resonate the most with our audience. So that's the update for our 10X.
Awesome. Yeah, very excited by these new sort of content flavors that we've got coming up. Right, Sissy.
As Josh mentioned earlier, on the community front, we are excited to start experimenting with leaning into community events. So this first one is centered around celebrating the Series A announcement with our crowdfund investors. You can see here, we're spinning up 3 different The Future of AMAs. So we'll have Josh on the future of levels, we'll have Casey on the future of metabolic health, and Maz on the future of membership. So these will be 30-minute Zoom sessions, primarily focused on Q&A. Each of the speakers will have maybe 5 minutes of prepared remarks just to dig into the topic, and then we'll really open it up to the crowdfund investors who are joining. So the hope is that will provide our investors with an opportunity to engage with the team directly. That's the first piece. And then also learn more about how we're putting their investment to work. So we're excited to kick these off, and I will do a recap on how these go. We're going to cap it at around 40 folks for the first, for this series, and we'll see how much interest we get. Hopefully we'll have a decent amount of interest and have a wait list going, but that's it for community.
Love the initiative. Thank you, Sissy. Excited to get a chance to participate in this. All right, Tom.
All right, so as Josh mentioned, Casey's episode on School of Greatness was released this week, and just wanted to put a spotlight on this episode for a few reasons. One, it's just a really big show, and it kind of flew under the radar internally. It's always a top 10 health and fitness show. Often it's ahead of shows like Mark Hyman. It actually has twice the number of Apple ratings, which is a proxy for downloads and reach as Hyman, just for context. And then also the reception was really, really great. So I forced Casey to send me a few of the DMs that she got on Instagram. I've included a sampling here. Definitely just read some of these as I'm going through this, but people were really moved by the episode. And I think after listening myself and seeing some of the comments and chatting with Casey, that we think that a couple of reasons that this may have resonated maybe more than some other episodes, or at least in a different way, is that one, Casey was really vulnerable in this episode and talked about her personal story a ton and sort of mindset in life and topics unrelated to health, even like awe and death, two of my personal favorites. And if you've seen some of the clips, she also wasn't just like articulating the science, but was taking really like firm, animated, opinionated stances against the sort of establishment healthcare system, which I think was really compelling. And then lastly, I think it's just important that as a team, we get in the habit of celebrating some of these marketing wins that aren't necessarily driving conversions. So this show didn't have a link. I actually think if it did have a link, it wouldn't have performed very well in terms of conversions based on the audience and what I've heard from some other brands, but I think there's still enormous value. It's just different type of value than conversions. We're, as a reminder, educating hundreds of thousands of people on this topic. And I think particularly this audience, this may have been their introduction to metabolic health and CGM. So probably not ready to buy just yet, but needless to say, super important. That's it. So awesome job, Casey, and recommend to the team that you listen. One more slide from me. All right, and then just a few more updates from the week. We kicked off a new experiment with Mark Hyman's team that Josh mentioned as well. This is a 2-minute video advertisement embedded in the middle of one of their YouTube videos. So we've done podcast ads. We've sponsored some full-length YouTube videos, but we haven't done any ads in YouTube videos like this. So this is an affiliate arrangement, and it's very lightweight and low cost, low lift. And so a good way to test some more scalable growth tactics that we can potentially ramp up post-launch. So stay tuned for results. And then in the middle here, a bunch of other team members getting involved with podcasts and even some YouTube stuff. So that's Lauren there on the top, doing a YouTube video with Shervin, who joined our forum last week, and a bunch of other faces down there who have either recorded recently or going to record upcoming, and particularly Taylor, who's been recording a bunch. So excited to see some of that new messaging. And then lastly, wrote up this doc on the right here this week, Liftoff Partner Comms, just starting to figure out how to systematically message the various stages of liftoff to partners and other VIPs in our network. So for example, updating all of our ad language to reflect that we don't have a wait list anymore once we lift the partner code gate, updating some of our internal resources and templates for affiliates, providing access to VIPs who have been waiting on Dexcom, for example, and reminding them of some of the other updates like the metabolic panel and new app updates and a bunch of other kind of partner and VIP segments. So that's it. Excited for liftoff.
Amazing. Great update. Congrats, Casey, on another awesome appearance on School of Greatness. Can't wait to listen. And thanks, team, for taking on this podcast tour stuff. I know it can be stressful in addition to your existing workload. Haney. with the async.
All right, good morning from the content department. A couple new pieces up since last time we spoke. The first piece here is from our friend Matt Lay. It's one of our research breakdowns, another study on prediabetes, which is a topic we have been tackling a lot lately because there's a lot of good research and I think it needs to be talked about more. This one is about the effect of having more exercise performed in patients who are at high risk of prediabetes or in high risk categories that have prediabetes. Basically, more exercise benefits them more. Nice study breakdown here. Matt always does a really good job explaining these. And this one, he also added one of his 5 minutes, 5 questions videos at the top of it where he breaks down the study in 5 minutes. So that one's worth checking out. Second piece here is a deep dive into brain fog, a term we've heard a lot recently because of COVID, but also a real connection to metabolic health. We talk about this a lot as a potential consequence, both short-term and long-term, of metabolic dysfunction. The writer here talked to Sarah Gottfried quite a bit for this piece. So Sarah's quoted and her book is quoted throughout it. So good deep dive piece there. And then I also just wanted to pull up, this is actually from last week, but Casey's most recent newsletter, the Dr. Casey's Kitchen, in which she tackled the ways that metabolic health interacts with sexual function. This is a really deep, thorough piece that she executed with a writer who we've recently onboarded to work on these with her. And, you know, it's basically the ultimate guide to this topic. It's probably one of the more information-packed versions of this newsletter that she's done so far. And a little bit lower open rate than we've often seen with these, I think, because it's a very specific subject. And I think some people just aren't going to open an email with the word sexual in the subject line. Might even have been caught maybe in some spam filters. It's hard to say. But for the folks who did open it, there's just a ton of great information in here. And we put all these newsletters up, by the way, on the blog. So if you didn't see it in your inbox, just go out to the blog. We always put these up as regular posts so they can get, you know, searched and found in all those normal ways. Last thing here is the new Everyone in Content piece this week. This is one about startup equity. This is basically, if you've listened to any of those podcasts that we've done, I think we've done 2 or 3 podcasts about equity, breaking down the terminology and, you know, what is an 83B and what is a stock option and what are grants. What I asked the writer here, Laura, to do is basically listen to those podcasts and then break those down into more of an article format. So you'll see in this piece, it's out on Medium, there's a glossary at the top where she breaks down all the terms that are gone through in those podcasts. And then there's kind of an FAQ where she just sort of distilled the questions that were asked and then grabbed little bits of answers from Zach or from Ms. or from Sam and all the folks who were on those podcasts. So it's just a really nice digestible piece tackling this topic. It's a nice complement to those podcasts that are out there. A couple other things I just want to mention quickly that are going on in the content department. One, we are about to launch the blog redesign, which will go up at the end of this week or early next. So stay tuned for that. And also we're just finalizing the press release for the Series A that'll go out probably middle of next week. So we've got that on final. That's basically it for content. Have a good weekend, all.
Great update. Yeah, love all the content, especially the piece highlighting exercise benefits that are asymmetric for people who frankly need it most. So super, that was a really great dive. Love Matt Lay's explanations. And then on the newsletter front, I got a +1 that it was so fascinating to read the deep dive. I frankly was super undereducated on how extensive the connections are, and that newsletter was a great read. Okay, this is one of our more information-packed meetings in recent history. So we're up against the timeline here. There is an update where we have gotten rid of the post forum cafe because we were seeing kind of drop-offs in engagement, totally understandable. We're going to reboot this in some way. And, you know, after a 90-minute forum, I totally understand people don't necessarily want to jump into another one. That said, I'm going to run a quick poll here today. No, I'm not. It doesn't want to comply. Okay. I don't know what that is. We can jump into it. If you need to go ahead and jump off. I think the individual contributions are super necessary. We've got new people on the team. I love to hear from them. So we're going to do it. I'm going to stop the share and jump over to participant mode. And if you have to jump off, go right ahead. No pressure. I'll kick this off by just saying, I am really energized by having had a chance to hang out with Sean and Dan in Austin this past week. It was super exciting to dive into the whole R&D program that we're working on with two of the people that will be instrumental in it, get to know each other a little more in person. Just feeling great about it. There's a lot of good stuff happening. And personally, I'm very excited for the upcoming Easter weekend. I'm back in Philadelphia temporarily to hang out with my wife's family. And yeah, that's me. I'm gonna jump to the bottom and start that way. Tony, over to you.
Yeah, on the level side, have to really just say welcome to Sonia and Caitlin. Sorry I missed your cafes this past week, but yeah, just want to say welcome to the team, and just really excited for the team growth, especially with Jen starting on Monday. Also on the level side, I had a donut chat the other day with Brett. It was just super cool to catch up with him and seeing like a behind the scenes look of his animation style and all the exciting stuff that's going on that you saw with those like explosions during his presentation. So I felt like a kid, like behind the scenes, like seeing like how a Pixar movie is being made or something. So just have to say that. And personally, yeah, just excited for the Easter weekend. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Awesome. Ben.
We're bouncing back and forth here, bottom and top. Super stoked for Sonia and Caitlin to join. And then on the personal front, read a book last weekend called Wanting and highly recommend it. It was just a really, really good book to dig into. So that's it.
Nice. Tom.
Sorry, I'm reading about Wanting. Looks interesting. Levels wise, yeah, just so excited about how every time we add a new team member, there's just so much horsepower being added to the team. And it's just amazing to see like all of the new projects and just velocity across the board. So just pumped every time we add someone new. Personally, excited for a low-key weekend. I just started reading the Harry Potter books for the first time. So I just cracked up book number 1 and I'm like 50 pages in and I get the hype.
No need to hesitate delivering that news. Awesome. Alan.
So we are going on an impromptu spring break because this is just how we do. This is everything last minute for childcare. So we're going to Disney World this week, which I have funny mixed feelings about. But yeah, we're doing it anyway. And work-wise, I'm just really excited to jam with Brett on a regular basis. He's crushing it. So yeah, it's great.
Nice. Enjoy. Dan.
Yeah, it was great to meet some Levels folks in real life this past week, both last Friday, Sonia and Sam, and in Austin, Josh and Sean. So that was awesome. Definitely excited to do more of that and for liftoff upcoming in the next few months. On the personal side, I'll second the Easter weekend and Passover on Sunday.
Very nice. Sunny.
Hello, sorry. I'm literally just sitting down to eat an omelet. So I'm excited for that. And in the longer term, thanks, Brittany. In the longer term, very excited for the IRB and the liftoff. Just digging into all of that. Brittany and I are working on making some snippets and making some FAQs and digging into all the work that Jesse's been doing. So overall, IRB is the big thing. Oh, and the answer, I am not at Flanagan level. So I am on a 4-egg omelet. Hold on, we gotta, now that I've talked about it, this is the 4-egg omelet situation, bifold with a side of greens. This is like what all of my levels entries look like, at least 40% of them.
That is pro level. Nice. Azure.
I'm laughing at the phrase bifold omelet. I guess work-wise, I loved Helena's Think Week, and she helped me do some data science onboarding. And I guess also thank you to like Jinlu's Loom videos. So I'm super excited to be getting into the data. I guess personally, I'm finally done traveling and flying anywhere for a little while. So if anybody's in the Bay Area or especially the East Bay, hit me up because I'm around.
Very nice. Lisa. Love to hear from you if you're up for a personal share.
Sure. I am watching my girlfriend's dog for the week, which has been interesting to watch because I'm out walking for 15 minutes many more times a day. And so I appreciate that. She's coming home today. I'm going to pick her up. I can't wait. Yes, I'm walking at my treadmill desk in my office because when I was sent home at COVID, I'm like, I stood at my office. I used to work at General Mills. I was the odd one out. I still am. Now I'm out of there. Yeah, thanks. Those are my pictures. I'm going to celebrate the weekend with family and friends. And yeah, I wish you guys all the best of luck. Got my sticker and my patch the other day, so I'm good to go and love listening to the stories you guys have. So good luck.
Awesome. Thanks again for joining, Lisa. Steph.
Work-wise, huge welcome to Caitlin and Sonia. I'm excited to get to know both of you personally. And non-work-wise, I came down with a weird bug this week, and so I'm excited to hopefully be healing from that soon. And tomorrow is my birthday, and so I'm excited to celebrate with friends.
Nice. Happy birthday in advance. Brett. Might be on read only. We'll jump to Stacy.
Welcome, Sonia and Caitlin. That's just really exciting to have you join the team. And Caitlin, loved your commentary about eating, and congrats on your pregnancy. And then from a personal perspective, we are hopefully finishing painting the last rooms in our house this weekend. We moved in 5 months ago, and I think we're going to be done with paint for a long time on Sunday. So I'm thrilled.
Painting is one of my least favorite activities. Congrats on being close. Brittany.
Hi. The omelet conversation's just cracking me up. Sunny and Matt, I think you guys still need to have an omelet off the next time we do a team get together. On the level side of things, I mean, first and foremost, just really excited about our team continuing to grow. So welcome, Caitlin and Sonia. I was excited to hear this week about OKRs. I'm really excited to see kind of what unfolds with that. I think that's going to be a really interesting and helpful thing to roll out. And yeah, on the personal side, I'm going to Disneyland tomorrow. So I'm really excited about that. I am someone that does love Disneyland. I've realized the more I've talked to people, it's very polarizing. Some people just really hate it. So anyway, I love Disneyland. I'm excited to go. Thanks.
Enjoy. For the omelet people, we got to resurface that age-old French omelet making lightning talk from Andrew, which he should be involved in any competition involving eggs. Sonia.
Hi, everyone. So hard to pick a highlight. This week has been amazing. Thank you all. I would say it was super special to be able to meet Casey, Dan, and Sam in between when I got hired and when I started. So that was really fun to have that before jumping in this week. And personally, I'm really excited I have a friend visiting in LA with a 4-month-old puppy this weekend. So super excited for her to be in town and to spend more time in LA. One of the best parts about leaving consulting is not getting on a plane every single week and getting to spend more time here in LA and just travel for personal reasons. So excited to spend the weekend exploring LA more.
Nice. Enjoy that. Caitlin.
Yeah, so levels wise, I'm just so happy to be here and happy to find that everyone is as nice and helpful as you seem from the outside. It's not all smoke and mirrors or some big prank it's not a bait and switch situation. So happy about that. Personally, I guess I have to mention that between now and when I was last on the Zoom, I made an omelet. That's what I was doing and eating. And it was most excellent. I put in jalapenos, even though I know it's going to give me heartburn, but that's just the wildlife that I lead.
Wow, that's adventurous. It's making me hungry. Sam.
I would say that I'm most excited for these efforts around aligning on company priorities and updating our processes. So I guess I'm most excited for being on the other side of that. I've talked to a lot of founders to better understand as we scale the org. A lot of founders that I talked to, one who runs a 1,000-person company, when I mentioned some of the processes that we need to fix around decision-making, said, "Oh, you're at that phase." And it was an interesting recognition that every company, it happens somewhere between 40 and 50 people, goes through this phase where you have to be more explicit. The complexity of projects is much higher. And so it was reassuring to know that there's light at the end of the tunnel of figuring these things out, and that we really do need to be vigilant in always reassessing. We're probably going to have to do the same process in 6 to 12 months when our company is even bigger. So we need to just keep reassessing our processes and how we solve problems.
Totally. Yeah. Good reminder that nothing here is final. So if you come across something that doesn't make sense, probably doesn't make sense, and we should fix it. So never be afraid of that. Casey.
So definitely highlight of the week was team growth with Caitlin and Sonia. It was so fun to get to work so closely with Sonia this week and to already be learning from her, and just grateful for just new perspectives on the team. Also just really excited by the video experimentation that's happening that Ben and Tony are leading. It's just amazing how fast things are happening and the incredible positive energy and organization that they bring to it. It's just really fun to be involved with that and just watching how that's happening. And then I just have to shout out Rob. He guest lectured in my Stanford course last Friday, and unfortunately we weren't able to record it because of Stanford's really strict rules around recording and students, but the students all, he gave a talk on like basically food as medicine, how food can be medicine or poison. And I think that a lot of the students had literally never ever heard this concept before of like food being able to heal disease and things like that, because they do reflections after the course online, and like everyone was basically just like mind blown. Like these are, 18 to 22-year-olds. And it's just so cool to think that like those seeds are getting planted early as they go into a path of entrepreneurship. And so really grateful to Rob for just like blowing their minds. And it's just, he's just such an incredible educator. So.
Love to hear it. Let's see, Chris Jones.
So definitely my highlight of the week was my donut conversation with Casey. I think the last time I spoke with her one-on-one was when I first started. So that was great. Maybe my low light was that donut talk was not her highlight of the week. So, I'm a little sad about that. Also, a couple other highlights on the level side. We had a really good everyone on support session this week. Lots of engagement where we started talking about order issues, and very quickly it pivoted to IRB. And as we're getting closer to liftoff and the implications around, switching from like steady MD and doctors' prescriptions to kind of like what's the risk that we have to take on, which then parlayed into I'm halfway through the city training. And it's really, this is the second time I've taken the city training, but it's now making sense as I think about how we make changes to the IRB approvals, and all the deep thought that's gone into that. So it's making it real to kind of have to go through that training. So that was, in a weird, strange way, I'm actually enjoying taking, the training. On the personal side, as most of you probably saw from the water cooler chat, farm life is in full effect right now. I've got so many projects going on in parallel. The one I'm probably most excited or nervous about is I have tree thinners coming to remove about 50 to 60 trees that are 80 feet high around my property. And a lot of them are going to require, please don't come crashing down through my house, like very surgical, like tree doctor-ish. So there's a lot of really close things where any windstorm, I'm pretty nervous. So a lot going on farm life.
Keep us posted. We love it. Haney.
bunch of things on the level side. I had coffee with Miz this morning, which was lovely. He's in San Diego for the weekend. Definitely a huge highlight to have Caitlin joining. It's just super fun to have a coworker in editorial. I kind of didn't realize how much I missed being able to just chat with somebody who does exactly what I do. So and just knows the space. So I'm just super excited about this expansion, about her joining. And then also just want to shout out Ben. So in that 10X video project, Ben had an idea for this blog TLDR where I was going to go on and explain a blog post. And I was skeptical of the idea. I just thought, I'm not really an expert. I don't really want to do this. But, I've learned to trust Ben and sort of jump in and do the experiment. And I think it actually turned out pretty well. So as another instance, and these keep piling up, of Ben suggesting something, me being skeptical and him being right. So I should just learn to trust Ben and skip my skepticism entirely. And then on the personal front, my wife got me a full day of guided rock climbing in Joshua Tree for Christmas. And so I'm driving to Joshua Tree this afternoon to spend tomorrow rock climbing. So I'm excited about that.
Blast. We need a dollar bet board for Ben so he can call his shots and can continue to convince us. Sissy.
Have fun rock climbing, Mike. So on the levels front, there's so much going on across the team. I think for me, it's so energizing to see how much we accomplish collectively each week and continuing to grow the team. So welcome to Caitlin and Sonia. From the meetup front, I'm loving continuing to meet up with folks. Galit in Asheville last weekend, and then I went for a walk with Ms. for our monthly donut chat. And we did in fact have a donut, but the spike was fine since we went on a 3-mile walk. So all good there. And then on the personal front, I'm really excited for a low-key weekend after a couple of weeks on the road from weddings and family gatherings.
Very nice. Yeah, that would be how to eat a donut is a great little Instagram story, I feel like. Let's see, Mike D.
Yeah, so I'll definitely +1 to what Casey said about the video content and experiments. We're super early on, like basically all of our content was really text heavy, and then we moved to audio and now we're video. So it's just super cool to see that come to life, and now our content's really approachable and digestible for everyone. So shout out to everyone, specifically Tony and Ben for making that stuff happen. And then also for the forum, like as Sam mentioned, as the organization changes, I think for a while, most of us could like follow most of what was happening in the company. And now that's just not possible. So it's great to come here and just see all the awesome updates.
Yeah, I love that printing press era, radio era, TV era for levels. Dom, welcome back.
Yeah, great to be back. I've been busy with teaching and also on the levels front, we have the clinical trial. Shout out to Dr. Allison Hull. And I'm usually on a meeting with her now, but she's seeing patients. And over the next 2 weeks, we'll be collecting the data for cohort number 2. So we've already presented that at several clinical conferences and scientific conferences. Personal front, my nephew's on the way here to visit, and my wife and I are involved in the pre-mission SpaceX Crew 4 launch. So we'll be spending a couple days there. We played sort of a big part in training 3 of the crew members, Shell, Samantha Cristoforetti, and Jessica. So we're super excited to see them go up to ISS and probably, hopefully, Mars and the moon first and then Mars. So really excited to see them again.
Near and dear to my heart. Love to hear that. That's awesome. Enjoy. Mercy.
Professionally, I'm gonna go with the whole video experimentation stuff. That's gonna be really awesome for members, and it also will be awesome content to share on our social platforms. So I'm excited to see how those perform. Personally, I decided to fly back to Virginia to surprise my family for the Easter weekend. So I've been hanging out with my nieces for the past day and a half. So looking forward to spending more time with them and seeing the rest of my family tomorrow.
Nice. Galit.
On the levels front, it was really great meeting Sissy. I was so happy that she reached out, even though she was like busy and here for just a few days. So that was great. And I'm really excited about just getting into our back end and learning all our tech stack. So lots to do there for me. And then excited to see how matzah impacts my glucose So yeah, that'll be interesting. And then personally, we had a bear here destroy our trash and hang out in our backyard all of last night and this morning. So I don't really want to leave the house and I'm ready to go to the city, but I'll probably do some hiking anyways.
That's quite an update. Stay safe, keep the bear spray with you. Maz.
After the bear update and the going to Moon and Mars, it's kind of hard to follow that. On the levels front, I'm really excited about that org design and priorities project. I think it's going to be a lot of great work with a lot of good people. And I'm going to try this new term called the brain trust, which is kind of like the consult thing that we have, but really leaning on Ms., JM, and Lauren and Ben to get that done. So really excited about that. On the personal front, really excited. Last week we took the Airstream for a little drive up the coast down really windy roads. It was a little scary because they're steep and windy and narrow, but it was a lot of fun. The kids really enjoyed being out in the middle of nowhere, and probably do it again.
Sounds great. Ian.
In Levels World this week, I really enjoyed a mix of just a spread of really enjoyable one-on-ones with people. There were recurring one-on-ones. There was pairing. There was a donut chat, and those just mean a lot to me. Like getting to know people individually here is really important to me and in life. So you're all good people. You continue to be good people. On the personal side, it is the time of year in Texas when things become warm and kind of sticky outside. And while that's not the best news, this has caused plants that are sort of native in my backyard that are boring most of the year to be flowering and real pretty. So I like that.
Very nice. Lauren.
I have two donut related updates. The first one is my donut chat with Stephanie, which was actually last week, but I'm going to highlight it this week. We got into this really interesting conversation around the social, emotional, mental aspects of behavior change and some of the things that I think we don't always talk about related to, for example, things around guilt and shame and body image questions when it comes to weight management and food choices. And like, for example, where is the line between really healthy guided behaviors versus creating habits that might be kind of verging into something that's less healthy. And looking forward to kind of continuing to structure these thoughts and share with you all about kind of some of the ideas we had there. So that was an amazing conversation. The other donut update is I saw the new movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, that stars Michelle Yeoh. It is so bizarre and genius and incredible. I recommend everyone see it. It's like, it has this multiverse theme. It's kind of sci-fi. It's just way out there, but she does an incredible job, and it's really cool to see some like Asian women in lead roles. So highly recommend. And I think it came out last weekend. Oh, and a donut features in that plot. That was the theme. There's a donut prominently featured in that movie.
All ties back.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and I guess we're there. We got through the whole list. So thanks everybody for sticking around a little extra time today. And as I mentioned, we won't have a cafe after this one. To those of you celebrating, happy Passover, happy Easter. Have a great weekend in general, and awesome getting to work with the new folks on the team. Looking forward to much more. And yeah, it's great hanging out with all of you. Have a good one.